Alright, Galway, is it? Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Hello, McIrish Football Fan TV. This is our first division preview at the League of Ireland, and it's all kicking off again tomorrow. And I suppose we'll start with one of the favourites. I'm not going to say the favourite, but one of the favourites to get promoted, I would say. I'm joined by Ger Brown, of course, and we're going to look at Galway to start off with, and we'll go through all of the teams individually then. So I suppose just with Galway, who they've signed, they got Brendan Clark in from Shells, which I think would be a huge boost for them to get them out of the first division. Obviously, he helped Shelburne get out of the first division a couple of seasons ago, and was fantastic for them for the couple of seasons he was at the club. Then they got Rob Slevin from Finn Harps, Darren Clark from Longford, Callum McNamara from Treaty United, Maurice Nugent, Regan Donnellan from Finn Harps, Colin Morgan from Sligo Rovers, Alex Rutter from Hume City, Vincent Borden from Rudder Belenje, and Ibrahim Kaite. They've re-signed Conor McCormick, Ronan Manning, brother of Ryan Manning, Irish International, Killian Broder, Conor O'Keefe, David Hurley, Stephen Walsh, Francie Lombotto, Edward McCarthy, Mikey Rowe, and Rob Manley. Players that they've let go. Conor Kearns has gone the opposite way to Brendan Clark to Shelburne. Max Hemmings, Charlie Lyons of gone to Cove Ramblers. Matt Connor's gone to Waterford. Gary Boylan's gone to Sligo Rovers, and Wilson Waruru has gone to Cove on loan, and Daniel O'Connor has gone to Ipswich. I went there on deadline day. So, Jer, I suppose from your point of view, what are you thinking from a Galway aspect?
Yeah, I think they're definitely kind of going to be up there, but I think you also look at managers who's going to be under massive pressure to hit the ground running. I think John Caulfield will probably be top of that agenda from a Galway United point of view, just because I think when he came in, I think it was the 2020 season, he brought so much experience from, obviously winning the league, Cork, couple of cups, bit of a cup run. Galway, would see themselves as a Premier Division club. They've, gone full time. The facilities have improved an awful lot. Even DC Park is one of the nicer stadiums in the country. And the way they started last season to the way then they just it's fair to say they capitulated. They were an absolute free fall by the end. They crawled into the playoffs. It was their first half of the season form that got them there. Obviously, were comprehensively beaten in that playoff final by Waterford down in the Markets Fields last November. And I kind of got this vibe and the feeling from talking to a couple of Galway United fans after the season ended that there's a bit of unrest. They're not kind of happy with John Caulfield. He felt he maybe could have went the end of last season. So there's a lot of pressure on. They need to hit the ground running. As you say, you look at their squad, there's some really exciting players, the likes of Ronan Manning there, Stephen Walsh, David Hurley around a long time. Rob Manley's, brings Premier Division experience. You look at what they brought in, Brendan Clark, been there, done that, knows the league like the back of his hand. Regan Donnellan, another very experienced Premier Division player as well. So there is a feeling they've got to hit the ground running this season, and they've got to kind of go up. And I think in general, like when you look at it, they're a city club. Everyone kind of feels they probably should be in the Premier Division, but as you've seen last year, like it doesn't kind of work out that way. Or even going back to 2 seasons ago, you've got Finn Harps, who are so battle hardened. I know it's a dawn of a new era with Dave Rogers, the manager there. Waterford, the way they ended last season as well. Longford feel now they've got a little bit of stability coming this season. Stephen Henderson is manager as well. So it's going to be interesting to see. I definitely think on paper, I think they're good enough to be a top 2 team. But it's whether they just kind of can keep that consistency going and probably keep the mentality kind of going, because I thought the 21 season, they were primed to go up in the playoffs and fell the first hurdle against Bray. Last year, they looked like they were going to push Cork all the way. They looked like they might have got a bit of a bounce coming into the playoffs. They bet Cork in a regular season game, but they just continued to absolute free fall. And like I said, the manner in which they just folded in that playoff final against Waterford would be very worrying. And like I said, the vibe is if they start the season slow, which they have done not too distant past, the John Caulfield could be kind of under pressure. But like I said, I think on paper, but nothing's won on paper, with the signs they've got and the potential that's there, there's no reason why they definitely couldn't be a top 2 team. And obviously Galway fans be hoping that it's top 1, not top 2.
Yeah, I agree. I felt as though they should have probably pushed Cork more last season.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the season, it was kind of a flat ending to the title race, I suppose. By the end of it, I was there when Cork. I keep saying I was there when Cork won the league. The night they won the league, I was at Turner's Cross, and they scraped over the line against Wexford. And yeah, it was it was because Galway had obviously lost, and Cork, but they didn't look convincing at all. Cork, that is. So I think, it's key, I suppose. Hit the ground running. Momentum is so key in the first division. If you can get a couple of wins early doors, I think that stands to you in the longer run. If you can just get a couple of good early results, really, really does stand to you. And Brendan Clark will be the one kind of. I think he'll probably be club captain if Conor McCormack isn't, and I think he'll be the one kind of pushing it. He's been there. He's done it. He'll have that added experience that maybe Conor Kearns didn't have. Obviously they've swapped divisions and swapped clubs, but I think Conor Kearns will be on an upward trajectory now, and had every right to leave Galway. Whereas obviously, I think Brendan Clark's kind of going in the opposite. Not that his form or anything has dipped. He was brilliant for Shells, the same way he was brilliant for Pats. But he probably just wanted a new challenge, and I think his challenge would be to obviously help Galway get back up. And they've a lot of money behind them. I'd say they'll strengthen again in the summer. So I think they'll be, as the old saying goes, there or thereabouts come the end of the season. But we'll move on to another side that I think will be right up there with them, and that's Waterford. They finished the season so strongly last year. Got to the FAI Cup semi-final. Obviously, were beaten by Shells and beaten by UCD in the playoffs. But we spoke to Danny Sayre last week, and he just seemed so annoyed that his squad depth was so low, because don't forget Ian Morris was the manager at Waterford, and they did okay at the start, then they fell away, and then when Cyril came in, the likes of Phoenix Patterson and stuff like that were unbelievable. Probably the best player in the league last season in the first division, and obviously he's left since, but they seem to have strength. I mean, we'll go through their team now. Thomas Lewis came in from Athlone Town. He's been around the league a little bit now with Rovers and Bows as well. Dean McMenemy from Shamrock Rovers, Connor Parsons from Wickham, Matt Connor from Galway United, Giles Phillips from Aldershot Town, Barry Bagley from Fleetwood Town on loan. Obviously that's their sister club. They've got Christopher Con Clark came from there as well. Ronan Coughlin from St. Pat's, who you'll know well. Ryan Burke as well, the left back. He was at Bows. He used to be with Birmingham as well. Highly rated youngster. Charles Ondo from Huddersfield, and then just a re-signed Wasim O'Carria, Shane Griffin, Niall O'Keefe, Killian Cantwell, Dara Power, Roland Idawu, Dean Larkin, Paul Martin, Eddie Nolan, and Tumnisi Sobawale. And then obviously the players that went out were Phoenix Patterson, Richard Taylor, Brian Murphy is retired, who'd probably be a big loss to him, Yasin Enea, Callum Stringer, Junior Quaterna from Fleetwood, or he went back to Fleetwood, I'd say. Timmy Sobawale has gone to Flora SK. Raul Uche and Jeremy Milambo have all left the club. So from a Waterford point of view, I think Danny Sayre was telling us last week that the squad depth was a big problem for him last year. Everyone knew what starting 11 was going to be, blah, 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 blah. But now it looks like they've brought in a good few players. They brought in players from Fleetwood as well. How do you expect to see Waterford, and what have you made of their transfers?
To me, they'd be my pre-season favourites to go up automatically. As I touched on, it was actually them that actually ended up pushing Cork the closest in the end. They actually ended up finishing second in the league. Always free fall was that bad. But like we talk about, early form and momentum is so kind of key. And I think that's probably been Waterford's biggest problem the last couple of years. They've made some horrendous slow starts and had massive catch-up. You go back to the 2021 season when they got relegated from the Premier Division. They couldn't get a point for Love or Monday in the first half of the season under Kevin Sheedy. Even I think had to give away a game due to injuries and all that to Sligo, or they put up the kids or something, wasn't it?
It was COVID.
Then Mark Bertrand, yes, them times. Then Mark Bertrand came in and got the bounce. It was kind of a similar thing as well last year, and they probably just left it too late. You know, you were there down there at the RSC and the Pet Shells in the Cup semi-final. Had a great run in the Cup as well. I think they actually knocked out Pats just after we bet Miura in the Conference League qualifiers, and it was probably one of them. If the season went on a bit longer, they could have really pushed Cork all the way. And probably for the first time in a while as well, off the pitch, there seems to be a stability there. They've had their troubles down through the years. You know, been tied up now with the sister club, Fleetwood. Obviously, it's had its disadvantages. They've lost Phoenix Patterson there, but they've got a couple of players, as you touched on, there on loan. Or even Jonathan Walters now being involved in the club as well. It just kind of keeps, good news stories, feel good factor, positive output coming from the club as well. I know you're saying the squad depth might be the best, but like Subawala, Niall O'Keefe, good young players. They're still there from the Premier Division days. I think getting in Ronan Coughlin is going to be massive because I think Pats fans are quick, sometimes can have a short memory. They can say, oh, he was disastrous and we're glad to see the back from. But like when he first arrived in the 2021 season, like he hit the ground running and he came to Pats because he was doing the business for Sligo in the Premier Division. So you kind of feel someone like him, 27, point to prove, dropping down the divisions. You know, if he goes in there with the right mindset, I think he could score a bucket load of goals, and that could be a massive, massive difference to kind of getting him up as well. And even Ryan Burke as well, getting him in on loan, or I think it's on loan, was it? But like he's played in the championship with Birmingham. I know it might only be limited, but he's been exposed to a high level. Like so, you will kind of feel if they hit the ground running, they're away to Wexford. That's a bit of a bananas game because Wexford really kind of caught everyone by surprise last year, and again they seem to recruit well in the off season. They seem to have a bit of a bounce going about them as well in pre-season. But like in general, I would be very confident that Waterford will bounce back up. They would feel, look, it's third time lucky. They should be there. You know, the whole sack of Mark Bertram the week before the playoff in 2021 wasn't ideal. I was fully convinced they were going to make amends for that and reverse the wrongs of that last year against UCD. And, you know, the way it ended, missing a penalty in the last kick, that's going to haunt them. I think that hunger and anger and determination is going to be a massive motivation for them this year. And I just think quality-wise, they're the best team in that division. And I think it will show over the course of a 36-game season or 30-odd games, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think Cyril's a very good manager as well. I think they've been looking for someone since Mark Bertram to come in and give them that lift. And I think he was the one who kind of came in and did it. And he went quietly about his business. And I think he'll actually get a good tune out of this squad. They seem to really like playing for him. And yeah, I think his big thing that he said to us last week was last year it was squad depth, but also he was saying that the teams around him all have bigger budgets. So when he was actually going to sign players, a lot of players were turning down Waterford due to the fact that other teams in and around them were throwing more money at the players. So it was hard for him to attract as many players as he probably wants. So that might be a factor, but it remains to be seen. I think, like you, I think they'd be my favourite to go straight back up. But I think another team who'll have a lot to say about that is Finn Harps, and obviously you mentioned them a couple of times already. They've got a new manager in with Dave Rogers, who comes in with a really good reputation as a coach. Was at Nottingham Forest before this, and he's really worked his way up in his coaching journey. I think this is his first gig as a solid head coach, first team coach. And he'll be looking to make this a success. I'm sure his ambition will be to win this league. But we'll go in through his ins, outs and re-signs. So we'll start with the re-sign. Just Sean O'Donnell, Kevin Jordan, Brendan McLaughlin, Shawnee Bradley, Ryan Rainey and Damien Duffy. Then they've got players in. Keith Cowan, Drogheda United, Queeveen Porter, Dahi McCallion, from Derry on loan. Two of those lads on loan from Seamus Keogh from Sligo Rovers, who we know from captain in the Ireland under-17s at the Euros in Dublin a few years back. Philippe De Silva, Michael Harris from Colorado Rapids, Tim Heimer, Ryan Flood from Phoenix Rising. So a couple of lads from the US. Obviously Dave would have been working there as well in the US. Catligo Mashigo, Portadown, Daniel Okwute and Ellis Ferrar, both Stockport on loan. Shane McGonigal from Aileach, and then out Ethan Boyle's left, David Webster has left, two big players for them last year. Rob Slevin, Regan Donnellan, Ryan Connolly, Gary Boylan, Luke Rudden, Connor Turish, James McKeown, Mark Timlin and Barry McNamee, obviously a big loss as well, and Jose Carrillo. So yeah, not a lot of players that we would actually know of too well. But I'm sure Dave Rogers would know them quite well, especially those lads from the USA. I'd imagine he would have worked with some of them, or he would have reached out to his contacts in the USA to see who is worthwhile taking a punt on.
Yeah, it's such a change in the guard for Finn Harps. It really is kind of hidden into the unknown because it had such stability. Ola Horgan there, the longest serving manager. You knew what you were going to get from year in, year out. Like I said, new manager coming in, Dave Rogers, really highly thought of as a coach. And I think by all accounts as well, as much as he'll try on that pitch in Finn Park, he wants to change the style of football and become more of a kind of a passing kind of football team with Finn Harps. Like I said, they've lost a good bit there. You know, the likes of Regan Donnellan going, Ryan Conley, Mainstays, obviously Barry McNamee. You on his day is one of the best players in the league. Like they're massive, massive losses. Like you said, what's kind of coming in? Okay, Keith Cowan knows the league, knows Finn Harps. Because you touch on a lot of players there that are kind of true contacts of Rodgers that might be kind of familiar with the league. I think Seamus Keown, they're getting a player in there of a high pedigree of a young age, as you said, Captain Ireland at under 17s. That was I think 2019, so he's still only 2021, so he's only really starting the trajectory for his career. Um, so it's going to be hard to know. It just kind of sees how long they're going to hit the ground running. Big game, first game up, Galway, one of them teams you expect is going to be in around them. Again, it's very hard to read how much into pre-season, but the results wouldn't exactly fill you with massive confidence. Like taking a 6-0 battering off Derry isn't great. They were beaten 2-0 as well by Sligo last season. By all accounts, really was a disaster of a season. I think they only won 3 games. They were comprehensively relegated. Just when you kind of thought they were starting to build a stability in the Premier Division, they really took 2 or 3 steps back last year. Like, look, at the end of the day, Ollie Horgan owed that club absolutely nothing. Like, many times he took them out of a relegation battle. But yeah, it is the dawn of a new era for Hearts. It's going to be interesting to see how it kind of goes. It's still going to be a tricky place to go. Like, there's, every other team in the division is going to have a long old spin up to Ballybofey. I still think they're definitely going to be in there. I think they'll definitely get a playoff place. But I think, would they overly challenge for promotion? Probably not. I think it could like Longford last year. It might maybe take a season or two before they fully, or same with Cork even. Like Cork's first season in the first division after relegate was a write-off. I'm not saying it'll be a write-off, but it might just take them a while because it's going to be such a change from what they're used to from the old guard after Ollie Horgan been there for so long. But yeah, I definitely think they'll get a playoff place. But I'm not sure when push comes to shove and we're down to single digits in terms of games left, would they really be pushing the likes of Galway or Waterford for that automatic promotion spot?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. I think David Webster was a huge loss for them when he got injured last season. I think he was a real leader at the back, and he obviously knew the league like the back of his hand. He's played with numerous of the top clubs in the league, and he in their season where they had a good season. I think it was the COVID year. He was a real catalyst for them, and he was their captain. And I think he was a huge loss for them. But let's see how they get on. I think it's exciting to have Dave Rodgers in there. It's another young, exciting coach. We have a lot of them in the league. So another one actually who we should probably look at now is Bray, and obviously they've got Ian Ryan in as their new coach. And they have signed a lot of players. They've got rid of a lot of players. And there was a lot of turmoil last year with Pat Devlin and stuff like that. I think he's still involved some way. I think it might be a director of football or something like that. But they do have Ian Ryan come in there. Really good reputation off the back of doing well with Wexford. And let's look at their players. So they re-signed Stephen McGuinness, Callum Thompson, Zach Donoghue, Ben Feeney, Connor Knight, and Jack Hudson. And then their outs, I'll go to their ins. Chris Lyons from Drogheda, which is a good one. Harry Groom, Luka Lovich from Wexford, same as Harry Groom. Dave Webster, who we mentioned, from Finn Harps. Connor Davis, J. Shortboat, Wexford. Dane Massey, another leader from Drogheda. Max Murphy from Bowes, former Rovers player as well. Jake Walker from Crumlin United. Owen Farrell from Wexford. Alex Moody from Wexford. Darren Craven from Longford. Connor Crowley. Len O'Sullivan, about Wexford. Cole O'More, I'm not even going to try and say that name, from Shamrock Rovers. Joe Power, brother of Simon Power of Shamrock Rovers. Guillermo Almirola have all signed from City. A lot of new players, and they've got rid of Hugh Douglas, Conor McManus, Darragh Lynch, Daniel Blackburn, Keith Dalton, Jamie Hollywood, Conor Clifford. He's gone to Lucan. Ben Clark, Zach O'Neill, Owen Massey. Kieran Marty Waters has left the club. Kevin Knight, Jason's brother. Joe Gorman, Ugo Annie Nzekwe, Jamie Callahan, Evan Hart, Dean Zambra, Colin Kelly, and Josh McClellan. So a lot of their core players from recent seasons and stuff like that on the pattern have left the club, and it looks as though they're going for a kind of totally. Well, I'm saying that more from a Cavo perspective. A lot of the Cabinteely players have left. Obviously they kind of have that merger there now, but it looks as though Bray are kind of trying to make this their own Bray, put their own stamp on things now this season.
Very much so, and even some of maybe the more established older Bray players like Hugh Douglas, Conor Clifford, they've not really seen much game time in the last couple of years due to kind of injuries. So like they might maybe as big as losses, it might kind of quite appear on paper. As you say, you touch on some of their signings, like Chris Lyons. It's only 2 years ago he was scoring plenty of goals in the Premier Division with Drogheda United. Dave Massey, multiple Premier Division winner. Like I know he's coming towards the twilight of his career, but just even what he's going to bring, that presence around the dressing room, like it's not that awfully long ago he was playing against the likes of AZ Alkmaar and St. Petersburg in the Europa League, and what he can kind of bring. So it is going to be interesting because they were probably the biggest disappointment in the first division last year. They were absolutely nowhere near it. And you say, like, after coming with the merger from Cabinteely, who have been building brilliantly over the last kind of couple of years, you kind of thought, oh, this could be the merge of two good squads. It just didn't kind of happen. And maybe, as you say, like maybe they need to just get that a little bit of a stamp of identity, and that's what they're kind of going about this season with having Ian Ryan. You expect a lot more from this season than last season. Just even looking at their pre-season results again weren't particularly encouraging. I think they conceded a combined total of 10 goals against Shamrock Rovers and St. Pat's. But look, you're up against Premier Division opposition. You won't have to worry about that week in, week out. They did beat UCD, which gives some kind of hope. I expect them to be kind of better. I definitely expect a playoff push and a playoff challenge this season, which they were nowhere near last year. Whether or not they'll kind of make or not, I'm not kind of quite sure, but you definitely expect a lot better. Like I suppose the only way it should really be up because last season was so bad. I still think to be better than the likes of Cove and Athlone, and they should be striving to be better than the likes of than Wexford, and they should be seeing themselves up there with the likes of Athlone and Treaty and battle out for two of the last, or maybe even just the last playoff spot.
Yeah, I agree. I think they'll be good, and I think obviously with Ian Ryan coming in there, I think that they're gonna have a good season. I think he's a really good up and coming manager. He was linked with bigger jobs than Bray. I think he was linked with the Bows job at one point. I think he turned it down. I could be wrong with that, but I know he was definitely interviewed for the job. So yeah, I think you've got another highly rated manager coming in. You've got Danny Cyril there. You've got Dave Rogers there. So it's going to be a battle of the good up and coming managers in the league who are all trying to strengthen their teams. And I think Bray have strengthened. And I think I don't really pay much attention to preseason results. I think it's when the actual stuff begins and the league starts. I think after about 10 games, you start to kind of weed out, all right, who's actually seriously contending here. In the first division, it can be a bit weird because you think after the first 10 games, it's like, oh, okay, you kind of know. But then teams go on these strange, really long runs, like Waterford at the back end of last season, and can end up doing really well, end up getting playoff spots and stuff like that. So it will be interesting to see how this new look Bray side get on. We'll just look through some of the other clubs then as well. I suppose we'll leave Athlone till the end. Same with Kerry. And we'll come to Longford now. And we'll leave Wexford till the end too. And Treaty, right. So Longford, so they've got in Jack Brady from Treaty United, Jamal Ibrahim from Shelbourne, Kyle O'Connor from Shelbourne, Francis Campbell from Shelbourne, James Duna from Cork City, Derek Daly from Crumlin, Evan Farrell from Bangor Celtic, Gavin O'Brien from Bows, Oisin Han from Shamrock Rovers, Josh Georgie from Shelbourne, a good player, Stephen Meany, Darragh Lynch from Bray, Victor Serdiniuk from Shamrock Rovers, Ross Fay from St. Pat's, Jack Harrington from Dundalk, Aaron Walsh from Loch Gall, A. Dervin as well has come in on loan from Shells too. Mohammed Boudiaf from Glebe North has come in for them as well. They've re-signed Sam Verdon, Adam Verdon, Christian Maguire-Rusin and Shane Elworthy. They've got rid of Aaron Robinson, Mark Hanratty, Ben Lynch, Carl Chambers, Darren Clark, Matthew Dunn, Darren Craven, Jordan Ediemo, Colin Cox, Darren McNamee, Luke Dennison, Brandon McCann, Matthew O'Brien, Dylan Barnett, Eric Malloy, Michael McDonald, Joe Power. So yeah, that's Longford's list of players. Again, it's a big kind of overhaul of a squad, I think, again, going into this season. But what are your thoughts? And again, another good manager there. So.
Yeah, Stephen Henderson kind of worked wonders really, didn't he? With Cove City, had them very, very much punched above the weight. Got them, I think, second one season. Come back, I think was it the 2016 or 17 season, one of them as well. And obviously a big boost getting Ade Irvin back because he's such a fan's favourite, local boy as well. the social media reaction from Longford fans and seeing he came back was massive. So that's huge as well. He obviously brings Premier Division experience even from their own stint there. Still keeping the likes of Sam Verdon there as well. Shane Elworthy as well. They've got that little bit of touch. Obviously, it's a massive overhaul. Last season was probably always going to be a difficult season because I think it's fair to say now with hindsight, the first division or the Premier Division promotion came too soon for them. They were severely out of their depth. I covered a lot of their games last season, the 2021 season. And like once they went a goal behind, you just never felt they were ever going to get back into a game. That was it. The coast was up for them. I think they only won 2 games the whole season. So I think that kind of probably would have knocked the stuffing out of them quite a lot. So last season was always going to be about stability. Getting a playoff place wasn't kind of bad going. I think the feeling now this year is they would see no reason why they couldn't be up there a little bit more, that they kind of nail on the playoff, and why not maybe push for an automatic promotion. As you say, like some of their signs again, the more than other clubs, a couple of decent signs in there, like James Juna, Premier Division experience for St. Pat's, good player at this level as well. Getting Jack Brady in as well from Treaty. I've seen him before. He's a nice signing as well. And obviously, as mentioned already, getting the likes of A. Dervin back in. I'm not quite sure whether I think they'll seriously push the likes of a Galway or Waterford, but I would have them probably the fourth best team in the league after Finn Harps. I think they will come to be near the playoff place. I don't think they'll be sweating for a playoff place come squeaky bum time. But and I think also, like I said, having Stephen Henderson as a manager, um, who knows that division inside out, and like I said, has the ability to get teams to punch above the weight, could be a big bonus too.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's a bit mad, isn't he, Henderson? Like
Yeah,
if you
he
look at
looks
his
a bit.
Twitter,
Yeah,
well, I wouldn't say he looks mad. He probably take that wrong, but he just comes across a bit mad in what he says on Twitter and stuff like that. Like he seems like a likable guy, but he's usually passionate about Irish
yeah,
football and stuff like that. So you'd imagine him going in there. They got into the Premier Division a few years ago, obviously beating Shells in the playoffs and stuff like that. Darragh Doyle got them up, and I think he just found it very frustrating with budgets and stuff like that. Trying to keep them up and stuff like that. But look, I think a lot of Longford fans, when I'm doing live videos and stuff, they're coming into the chat and saying they really believe that they're going up this year. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. We'll move on to Gary Spain's Treaty United. I'm sure he'll be excited to see how they get on this season. So they've got Conor Barry in from Wexford, and Gary Curran's pal, Anto O'Donnell, Andy Spain. I wonder if he's any relation from Andy from Athlone. Shane Hallahan from Cove Wanderers, and Colin Kelly from Bray Wanderers. They've re-signed Enda Curran, who would be massive for them up front. Stephen Christopher, Lee Devitt, Mark Ludden, who again is huge for them. Colin Conroy, big player too. Dean George, Ben O'Riordan, Connor Wins, Success, Ed Dogan, Mark Walsh, Willie Armshaw, Josh Quinlivan, Scott Kirkland, and Darren Collins. They've got rid of Jack Lynch, Joe Collins, Joel Colstrain, Callum McNamara, Jack Brady, obviously to Longford, Connor Melody, McKean, Sean Gearns, and Ryan Colley. Now, I'd say the reason why Jack has gone is because he's a teacher in Dublin, so that's probably the reason why he's been with Longford, because I know Longford train in Dublin, and we actually met him the day he signed for Longford, and he was telling us that was the reason. So there you go. So I think that might be a reason why maybe Treaty struggled to attract players, is just of the location of the club, and again, like that, a lot of Longford's players have they can sign a lot of players from Dublin because they train in Dublin. I think they train at St. Moctus. So
yeah, it's like it really is. It's a lot of the problem with them kind of clubs based west of the Shannon, like maybe Galway mightn't be quite as bad, especially
because
for
they're
like
loaded.
Treaty. Yeah, well, the particular for likes of maybe likes of a Treaty and Finn Harps, like you really kind of have to be really basing yourself in the area, and it could be maybe a little bit difficult. Employment opportunities obviously aren't maybe there as massive as much as at Dublin. As you say, like Longford, the fact that they can base themselves in Dublin during the week for training is a big bonus. But I think if you're looking ahead for a season preview for Treaty United, it'd be just more of the same. There was no expectation really the first season. They caught everyone by surprise, got the playoffs. Last season they got there again. I think that's kind of pretty much just more the same. Nice stability. It was only their third season back. They're still relatively new as well. You look at a couple of signings. I think Ryan Conley is probably the standout one, just purely because of his Premier Division experience down through the years. But yeah, like I probably would look and think is there enough kind of quality there, even though like the Enda Curran is still there and he's a massive player from his touchdown? Is there enough quality for him to challenge for promotion automatically? No. Is there enough for them to once again get into a playoff place? Yeah, I think so. Now I do think the likes of a break, a push hard, Wexford would feel that they got a sniff of challenging last year. They'll want more of it, and they want the same and more this year. So they'll definitely have a fight on their hands. But like I said, I think if you offer them fifth place now, they take their hand off again. Just keep that nice bit of stability going. Solid manager there, and Tommy Barrett, knows the club inside out, going back to the Limerick FC days as well. Very well liked from the fans. So yeah, like I think another kind of solid season with Limerick and a playoff place. And I think they'll be pretty happy with that, or maybe they might feel let's be a little bit more ambitious. This is their third season and go for it. But I think that's probably being realistic, my view.
Yeah, I think it's they've been punching above their weight the last 2 seasons, and I think nobody's really actually getting ahead of themselves in terms of expectations. It'd be interesting to hear Gary's thoughts on it and what he would like, but he doesn't talk to us anymore, so we can't get his kind of reaction to how Treaty would do, because if anyone would know, it would be him. Just in terms of how they actually are going to set up. He knows the club inside out and stuff like that. So I must actually get onto him and just ask him, like, what are you actually expecting from this season? Because I think a playoff spot is the maximum they will probably get just with the squad they have. And I'm not saying that in a disrespectful way, but I know from speaking to him last year, like anytime it was always the playoffs, no matter what. It was always just the playoffs and staying above those teams that are just kind of hovering underneath them, who will come to now, the likes of your Wexfords and stuff like that. And then you have obviously Athlone and Kerry as well. We're going to speak about them, and Cove. So we still have a few teams to speak about. So I suppose we'll just kind of run through them real quick. Wexford re-signed Thomas Considine, Caleb Harnett, Darrell Evanston, Aaron Dobbs, Sean Fitzpatrick, and Evan Farrell. They've got in Aaron Robinson, Mark Hanratty, Ethan Boyle, Ben Lynch, Carl Chambers, Aaron Doran, Connor Levinson from Bowes would be a big signing for them, Jordan Adeyemo from Longford, Colin Cox, Matthew Dunn, Hugh Douglas, Brandon McCann, Danny Furlong, Harry Curtis, Reese Webb, Charlie Heffernan. And then they've got rid of Dinny Corcoran, who's retired. Wish him all the best going forward. Harry Groom, Luka Lovic, Connor Davis, Jer Short, Owen Farrell, Alex Moody, Connor Barry, Connor Crowley, Len O'Sullivan, and Jack Doherty. So, that's Wexford. I think some big players in there. What are your thoughts on them, Jer? I'm going to just quickly run through these kind of lower end clubs.
Yeah, just keep it quick. Very impressed with their recruitment off season. Getting someone like Ethan Boyle, a former Ireland and Trainway International, is massive. You mentioned Conor Levingston. You think back to when Bowes were at their pomp under Keith Long, or certainly pre-COVID. He was a good part of that midfield for them as well. So there's a couple of good signings in there as well. Punched above the weight last year. They'd never been cannon fodder in the first division down there, battling for bottom spot with that loan. But they really pushed it last year for playoff spot at that memorable cup win against Sligo as well. I think they actually bet them again in pre-season. I know you can't read too much into that, but yeah, like I think they'll definitely be kind of feeling that there's enough quality there. They've recruited well, that they can kind of kick on and challenge. They would probably arguably feel that they have a better squad than Treaty, although as I touched on, Treaty have had that nice bit of stability. But I don't think they'll be. I think it could be similar signs of that. I don't think they'll be cannon fodder. I think if they can click and hit the ground running, and the new signings jet in. Like first up, Waterford, if they could manage to take a scalp there and get an early point, it could all take off from there. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but I think they'll be very close again this year.
Yeah, I think the playoffs would be a great season for them, to be fair.
Massive season for them,
yeah. But yeah, let's look at Cove Ramblers. I just have it up here. So they've re-signed Jordan Abbott, Brendan Farrell, Jake Haggerty, Justin Egwabar, Michael McCarthy, Pierce Phillips, Michael McCarthy, Luke Desmonds, Dale Holland, James O'Leary, Connor Drinnan, Dara O'Sullivan, Connell, Isa Cargbo, Dara Burke, and Tiernan O'Brien. They've got in then Jack Doherty, Charlie Lyons, Callum Stringer, Ryan Delaney, David Bosnack, Kean Brown, Wilson Warwaru, Lee Stacey, Charlie O'Brien from Cork City's under-17 side. They've got rid of Charlie Fleming, Sean McGrath, John Kavanagh, Sean Barron, Danny O'Connell, Gavin Ryan, Harlan Mbayo, Paul Hunt, and Benon O'Brien Whitmarsh. So I honestly don't really know anyone there other than Wilson Wararu. And I'm not sure if that's the Ryan Delaney that I'm thinking it is who used to play with Cork. I'm not sure if that's him.
No, that's not him. He's still in England.
Okay, well then the only one I not really know there is Wilson Wararu. And I think from my own point of view, again without being disrespectful, I think Cove will probably hover around the bottom three.
Yeah, I think the only other name as well that stands out to me there as well is Jack Doherty. He's been probably was Wexford standout player of the last kind of couple of years. Lee Stacey obviously as well, played in the Premier Division with Longford a couple of years ago. Yeah, it's interesting because not long after Shane Keegan took over last year, done off the ball. I was just kind of on about that, like, you know, at that stage of the season, they had no chance of making the playoffs. It was just about seeing out the season and start building for this season. I think another thing he was saying, an important thing for them is Cork getting promoted because they're not in the same division for them. They're not picking from the same pool that they can. The fact that they're now out of their ear or out of their hair in the Premier Division, they can take a couple of players from them on loan. They're even hoping that at that stage, he was hoping that Waterford would even go on and push up, but that didn't quite happen. But look, you know, Shane Keegan, he's a good man for talking things up, and he'll probably make it sound kind of very, very good. But ultimately, at the end of the day, there's a big task on his head. As I touched on already, there's at least 7 teams better than them in this division. So I think they're probably going to be there hovering for the last 3 spots between themselves, Athlone and Kerry, I think, this season.
Yeah, well, let's move on to them. We'll move to Athlone and then we'll go to Kerry because Kerry's quite in the unknown for us as well. And I haven't been to see Athlone or any of these sides for a long time. The last time I saw Athlone play was when they played Shelburne in Catawga Park, season before last. So
that's actually the last time I was seeing them as well. I think we were both at that game. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they had a good side then, you know, and they were starting to do well.
They were pushing for. That was the season, the 21 season, where they made a load of signings all season, hit the ground running, top early doors, never really kind of kept up that consistency, but they still found themselves actually. That was one of the last games season. Still found themselves going for a playoff place. Where last season was back to kind of same old Longford again, just kind of making up the numbers, which is a shame because you know it's a nice little ground. It's a good football town. It's a big football town. It's got plenty of history, you know, from their days of the past, playing the likes of AC Milan in Europe. Obviously, had a bit of a cup run as well, 2020. You know, knocked out Shells. Then obviously got severely hammered by Dundalk in the semi-finals. But I suppose, look, I don't really know an awful lot about them coming into this season, other than, you know, Dermot Lennon, his manager. He knows the club like the back of his hand, the local man. Played for the club. His son Adam was back there again. He was on loan there last season from UCD. I'm not sure if he's quite permanent. He's a good young prospect. He's still only 2021, but realistically speaking, I think
he's re-signed there, it says,
yeah. I think realistically speaking, if you offered them 8th place, they'd bite your hand off. Like they would feel that, right, we should take advantage of Kerry being a new team. Who knows? Kerry could be like Treaty a couple of years ago, and they could take the league by storm. And they'll always feel that there's never more than a kick of a ball between themselves and Cove. 8th place probably would be a good season for Athlone. And the fact that we're saying that probably just tells you, I think, it's an indication where the expectation levels are at. Or maybe Athlone fans might think differently. Who knows? But from the outside looking in, that's very much how it feels and looks.
Yeah, I'll just run through their players because we've done it with every other team. So they've got Ian Josh McClellan from Bray, Gavin Gilmore. They've got rid of Thomas Alua, Andy Spain, Charla Jones and Sammy Clark, and they've re-signed Adam Lennon, who you mentioned, Patrick Hickey, Enda Minogue, former Bows goalkeeper and Bray goalkeeper, Charles Matewe, Aaron Connolly, not the one you're thinking of, Valerie Dolia, Aaron McBride, Vlad Velikan, Oisin Duffy, Noah Van Geenen, and Jack Kavanagh, and Blake Ryan as well. So there you go. We'll just move on to Kerry. There's a lot about, like, I suppose there's no re-signs or outs because it's just who they've signed. They're a relatively new club. It's great to see a new club and, you know, a new place for away days for fans to go to as well, and obviously another hotbed for talent to play, and you know, somewhere where people from Kerry can go, oh well, we have a local team now. So yeah, they've got Matt Keenan from Treaty United, Sean McGrath from Cove, Tripamir Virlicic from Killarney Celtic, Sean Kennedy, Nathan Gleeson Jr. Ancoma, Andy Quaid from Regional United, Cormac Buckley, Keane Brosnan, Nathan Gleeson Jr. and Coma. Ryan Kelleher, all from Killarney Celtic as well. Keenan Cooney, Sean O'Connell, Ronan Tehan, Samuel Aladanusi, Togar Salong, Wayne Guthrie, Callan Sully, Alex Ainscough, Kennedy Amachi from Cork City, Kaelan Spillane, Mark Carey from Cork as well, Jonathan Hannafin, Graham O'Reilly, Rob Vassiu, Kevin Williams, Aaron O'Sullivan, Stephen McCarthy and Shane Guthrie. So they're all their new signings. Again, Matt Keane is one that stands out for me from Treaty United. The rest are quite unknown for me, and it's going to be interesting to see, as you say, can they do what Treaty did a few seasons ago and be the club that punch above their weight and do well in their first season. I know Tommy Barrett has experience managing the first division and stuff like that, and Billy Denahan, who has League of Ireland experience, maybe not managing experience, but I'm sure he'll be looking to put Kerry on the map this season.
Yeah, it's good they got a local lad in as manager as well, and you said he's had a good League of Ireland career and knows it inside out. I remember was it the time Shamrock Rovers B came into the league. I think it was myself, Gary Spain and Paul Tierney. We'd done a video about trying to get maybe more teams like, regional teams, get a team from Kerry, get a team from Mayo, like these big counties that have big football towns. And so it's fantastic. It's great to see that this could be the first step, and it's the start of something. As you say, it's great now for Kerry people to say, we have a team, instead of saying Cork's an hour and a half drive, Limerick's an hour and a half drive. They've got a team based there in Tralee. Might not be central in the county. Kerry's a big county, but still, look, it's kind of a start as well. And even it's good to see the first game against Cove tomorrow. It's sold out. It's great to see there's a buy-in there. Kerry's a massive county. You might always just think, it's Gaelic football in Kerry, and it probably might seem to be number one. But I think Gary Spain, a good man for the stats, told me once, football, like soccer, the real football, is the number one participated sport in Kerry. So there is an appetite there. If you look at it, Killarney Celtic regularly compete at the latter stages of the FAI Junior Intermediate Cup, sometimes even make the FAI Cup proper. So there is pedigree there. We've seen on numerous occasions really, really good players from Kerry come through the league. So it's brilliant. It's fantastic to see the development and growth, and hopefully it's the start of maybe other teams from other regions, other parts of the country as well now might get a team and it'll take off for Kerry. But look, I think it's going to be one of those, we see that there's the public buy-in straight away. They got a set out for their first game. Let's hope it keeps that way. Let's hope that the people of Kerry are realistic and think that this could be nearly, in terms of results, nearly a write-off this season, because a lot of players are probably playing at this high level or at this standard for the first time, so it can take a while to adjust. Obviously, the fact they've got players like Shane McGryan from Cove, Matt Keane in particular from Treaty, will kind of help. I don't expect a Treaty-like bounce from them from a couple of seasons ago. I think it's one of those, if you offered them ninth, they'd probably bite your two hands off. Or if you offer them to be a competitive 10th, I think they'd probably take that to start off with. So it's going to take time, the first season. But look, the main thing is just the novelty of it. It's brilliant. For the away fans to have a weekend away in Kerry, one of the most top spots for a weekend away in the country. It's going to be brilliant. It's going to give a great bounce for away fans. But let's hope it's not just a case, it's full of away fans. Like I said, let's really hope that the people of Kerry get behind this team and light up their Friday nights, and they have a couple of memorable games along the way. It's going to be tricky. It's going to be tough. But like I said, I think even if they were a competitive 10th this season, got a couple of scalps, got a couple of wins, they'll definitely game the games against the likes of Athlone, Cove, maybe Bray, maybe Wexford, maybe Treaty, because it's going to be a local derby that they'll be targeting. But I think that's probably been realistic for Kerry for this season.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think they'll just look to be competitive this season.
Yeah.
And some, and learn as they go, because they've a lot of players who look to me like they haven't had any League of Ireland experience. But again, you see a lot of players playing amateur level who come into the League of Ireland or whatever, Premier and First Division, who can. You look at Danny Grant a few years ago, he was playing Leinster Senior League, came into Bohs. He's one of the best players in the league and got a move across to Huddersfield then not long after that, So it'll be a chance for them to go and test themselves, prove themselves, and then have another year's experience under their belt for next season. So I think that's fair enough. I don't think we've left any teams out there. Let me just double check.
It's just great as well throughout the course of the season. If we could even get reaction from kind of Kerry fans as well, and kind of see what the feeling is on the ground, because it'd be very, very good to see, and hope that it is one of those that it can take off within the county as well.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just seeing there. I'm just going back up through the teams. Now, we did touch on every team, so just wanted to double check that before we ended. Yeah, so let us know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. Tell us in the comments which game you're attending this week. And if you're not attending the game, tell us why you're not attending the game. We will speak to you all soon. Huge thanks to Jer as always. And yeah, enjoy your Friday night and enjoy your weekend.
Thanks, Paul.